And I'm a senior acquisition content manager, and I work with Amy Weston. I'm glad that Amy could join me this time. Amy is a professional genealogist, and I'm so glad she works with us at Ancestry and helps us in so many areas of what she does in our content department. But it'll be something we decided we'd share with you, a little of both sides of Ancestry today. So I go out and I meet with archivists around the country. I just got back from Alabama yesterday and getting together with state archives and state departments of health. I was meeting with them as well, but I think it's exciting to see records that have not been brought into a digital format yet. Sometimes they're still in paper, or they're in various types of records that are out there. You'll be surprised when I show you a few examples. What has still not been brought into a digital format, or otherwise is simply hidden from the public. So I love that. I would find new things that excite a person who never knew that their ancestor was employed at some company they never knew about, right? So it can vary what exciting new types of gems there are. Today, what I want to start with is perhaps just a little bit of an understanding of what it is that we do. Begin with an Ancestry. Let's get to the right slide. Okay. Let me open this up full view. So
could we get you to share your screen?
Can you see? Oh, okay. So Amy's got this.
You're okay. I got
Have
you.
it back up here.
You want to see what we're doing? Okay, let's share. Give me the meat. Yes, come on.
It's so cool to have someone just come out of nowhere speak to us in our
This is awesome. So which screen do you want? This one? Right
Yeah,
here?
yeah.
Okay. Right here.
Is that better?
No, you got to share the whole screen. Yeah, there you go. Got it.
Got it now?
First slide.
I've got one slide. Yeah.
That's it.
That it?
Yep.
Okay,
Thank you.
one slide. So with Ancestry, a lot of what we do has to do with preservation and providing access to records. And so when we go ahead and look at the kinds of records that are out there, our focus is really on our mission initially, which is to empower journeys of personal discovery to enrich lives. That's what we try to do every day. To help our customers be enriched by the records that they see and that they find are enjoyable, and even meaningful to the point where they have tears. We see that quite often, but I want to add maybe a thought to this. So how many of you have recognized parallels that occurred in the lives of your ancestors and your own lives? The parallels that exist between what they experienced and what you experienced in your life. I found that to be a remarkable thing. I went to the University of Utah, and I never realized my parents lived my great-grandparents lived just down the street from the U of U, and they loved the U of U. I never knew any of this story because nobody told me that they were right down the street in that home that they no longer live in. But it was neat to see. I was actually driving past it every day. And so there's a story there. Well, I went to go discover those stories as I became much older after I finished my degree, but I would have loved to have known it while I was there, right? The little parallels of their lives are oftentimes crossing ours, and I think it excited themselves to know we're living things that they did, they saw, they experienced. So that's a form of enriching, and our product is to help everyone easily discover, craft, and connect to their stories around family history. Or their family story. So what do we have? What does it look like today? Should I hide that?
I think the mine's on the tiny one. There you go. That's small.
Let's bring that down out of the way. So now, and I apologize, this kind of jumped on me. I didn't notice that, but we have 60 billion records that are online at Ancestry. We gained about 30 billion records over the last year and a half because AI helped us tremendously, to be honest with you. We went out and had AI pick out all of the articles of news events in the US alone by state and pull all those news events from all the way to whatever time frames, the 1700s all the way to today, and pull all those names and stories out of every event. So that's a lot of information, obviously, that was a big boon for what we offer now in our Ancestry catalog. We have 13 billion profiles. So when somebody goes in to see a name of a person and the records that are associated with that person, there's 13 billion of those on trees. Family trees that have been created so far are 131 million. Sorry, when I pulled the screen up, all the numbers adjusted, that's why it's off, but that's 131 million that have been created, and there always are new ones being created every day, I would imagine. Photos and stories that have been uploaded by our subscribers is now 1 billion. And these records are being pulled from 88 countries of origin. And you can't see it down there, but the world's largest DNA network equals now 25 million. 25 million people have taken the DNA test. So that continues to expand and grow to help people do their own version of family history using DNA. So we collect records from a lot of places around the world, but I'll just focus on a couple of things that I wanted to let you know about on a more personal note to begin with. How many do you use Ancestry regularly? That's going to get an idea. What about you? I think a lot of you are experts already, I know. Using it extensively. Where would you put yourself using Ancestry?
I'm just new to it.
You're new to it.
I
It's
use
a little-
family search all the
A
time.
little bit of dabbling. Okay. Good. I want to make sure I don't want to go to, if you're all intermediates or experts in this audience, and I apologize. I want to keep it the level where Amy's going to take you to a whole new level. Okay.
It'll be fine. Don't be scared.
So right now, I wanted to emphasize something, and it just kept coming back to me. This is my second great grandfather. And really the stories are what's most important here. What did he experience? So my entire life, I never knew much about him. Up until one day, someone from California, I have no idea who they are, put up his autobiography. His autobiography when he was born in 1840, right? And he died in 1922. Just before he died, he finished it. We didn't know anything. How did he come to Utah? Why did he come here? None of that story was known. So one day they did that. Out of that autobiography and a lot of other information that I gathered by way of records, I could find out more about him. So I began putting in a profile about his life. And this is something I want to suggest to you. If you have not created profiles about your ancestors, it's one of the funnest things to do. It is so fun to tell the story of who they are and talk about what did they go through. Benjamin was raised by his mother as an only child after his death. And his father and his brother was 2 years old when he died. So now he's just left in the middle of the most difficult place of Leeds, England, with no money, with his mother having to work. And they have nothing. And he grows up in absolute poverty. And he marries at 21, and Eliza Wainwright in that same vicinity. And then he decides on his own, he takes his one child with him to New York City to try to make a new life in New York City. And he heads out there, and before he could bring his wife, because he didn't have enough money for passage, all these records are there in New York City. So I went and tracked them down, and there they are. The records that show that he became a citizen of the US in 1872. His story of what he did to eventually make it to Utah. So these stories can really be fun. And one day I was given the opportunity to go to England, and this is the church where he was baptized. All that's left of it now is a tower, a church tower. There's not even a church building there anymore. But out of that, I could find where he was baptized and so forth. So that was wonderful to see that his father, who had died, was right there with his name on this record. So more about him I found out later, and there's from that autobiography I learned so much. It brought me to tears, just the life that he led and the things that he did. Terrific man. So these records are coming from they're now in 9 different websites around the world. And it kind of gives you an idea of the 60 billion records that are coming into these sites from various places. And we have many people around the world doing what I do to acquire records in these different countries. So most importantly that I want to emphasize with you is, how do you go about gathering some of these stories into your records and bringing those into your tree. Some of you might use a variety of websites, so that's great. Family Search obviously has a lot. Ancestry included, we have probably the most in certain countries of anywhere in the world. Find My Past is right there in England, a lot of the records from there, and in My Heritage, you'll find them in a lot of different countries. And the HGS, we just really enjoy working with them, and they're out of New England. Historical Genealogical Society, they have a lot of materials that they offer up to members of the church, by the way, without cost. How many of you knew that's the case with these websites, that you can get them without cost? Okay, for the access to these records. How unique is that, right? Because every one of these costs a little bit, except for Family Search. So you can now add audio recordings, as you know, from Family Search. And I told the story last year of how last time I was here of how my brother has added all the stories of his sons have been on missions. He's added all the, you know, my dad died. He added everyone's talk from that funeral to Family Search's audio, so we could hear what everybody said at that funeral. So there's a lot of ways to use the audio version, and now Ancestry has audio as well, so you can add audio to those ancestors' lives. Yeah.
Could you go back to the previous slide with
Yep.
of the countries? South America.
Yeah, it's a work in progress for Ancestry anyway. So we did add Peru just a little while ago, a lot of Peruvian records. So that's one big step of our big toe into Latin America. We recognize that is an area of growth, and we'll continue to be able to develop that over time. Mexico is without question the one that we have the most records in when we talk about the country, you know, next to us in Mexico, but it's hundreds of millions of records per se versus hardly anything in South America. So we have a ways to go. Now, preservation of records, you never know where you're going to find things. And it's unfortunate. This is a real picture of what happened, but I wasn't there. I didn't take a picture, but it just gives you an example. They have nowhere else to put them, and they don't know where it's going to go, and therefore they could be rot, right? That's why we're trying our best to get to them before they're ruined, either from paper or mold, right? Mold occurs a lot of times in different places around the world, and so damaged records comes in a lot of ways. So before I go to this slide, I want to share with you another part of why you can get excited about what you're doing with your tree. This is probably your tree, right? Let me go back to this one. I'm going to go here to this other one for just a second. I became so excited when I learned I could put all of the information I could about my grandparents. This is my other grandparent. This is my grandfather, Daniel Eldenbeck, and he had quite a life. He wrote a biography too, but that helps, believe me. But a lot of it was written, a lot of records were found, and I just kept adding the records about his life. And they were all right there in Ancestry. It was so easy to find them, right? Because it served it up to me. But I started to put him in place, and I wanted to know where he lived. If I could get pictures of the house, I tried to. I knew that he lived in McGill, Nevada, and I put a little picture of he and his sister having a little shoot out there by that tree, and they're having some fun. But I just started to put together the pieces of his life. He eventually would make his way into attending high school in Lava Hot Springs in Idaho. And that's where he would graduate in 1922. That's a neat story. His story is so well written, but about his high school years. So I learned that Roscoe Davis was his favorite teacher. Well, I could write all that because he told me he did this and that. So why not write a quick bio about them? And then what else they may have done. And then he eventually makes his way into BYU after graduating. I have his graduation certificate. And I found just little pictures about vacations he took. And then I wanted to know a little bit about where he was educated. So I found his graduation bachelor's certificate here. Found out that he had a master's degree also this year in 1930. That'd be a tough time to be going to school. Well, he went off from there to Ames, Iowa, where he would get his PhD. And he finished that before he married. So it was a lot went into this life. And so I was like, okay, I want to at least track where he's at. And he went eventually to teach at Dixie for a little while before marrying, and then he eventually was able to get his start at BYU. When he'd work at BYU for some time, and his wife taught at Springville High. So there's just a neat story there. And I wanted to kind of hey, World War II came along. He ends up going and enlisting in the service, even though he didn't have to, but he did so anyway. And so I wanted to know everything about that. So just little things you could do to think about your grandparents. If you haven't done the exercise, have some fun. Find out about them in ways you never knew. And then somebody else will appreciate the outline you made of their lives. Maybe that's easy and you've already done it. So lastly, just to point out to you, fold 3, because he went to the service, they allow you to do a little honor wall on fold 3 for free. So I did, I honored him about what he did in his service while he was in the Army. And so that was kind of fun to put the pictures in it and find out a little bit of the awards he received. His rank was captain. He was the director of mosquito abatement as a professor. So there's some things that were kind of nice to add into a little flavor for those who don't see enough about those people. They may want to know about them in fold 3.
His records at BYU and so forth, were you able to find those on Ancestry?
He was quite well known. So he was a renowned entomologist, and he would travel the world studying ticks. Not a fun subject, but that's what he really enjoyed. So I was able to find his work is published at BYU extensively, and he brought all kinds of ticks and all kinds of insects back from places. But he also provided a lot of information about his life. He was a really good writer. So he wrote for the local newspapers and did a lot of writing about things. So I had a lot to go off of. But that made it easier on me, I'll be honest with you. Sometimes the others that I have, my other grandfather, good man, terrific amount of things he did. I just didn't have as much written about him. So I had these other records to help me fill in the gaps. So, but just feel free to use fold 3 to your advantage as well. This is free as a service, but to view the records, you would need to get access. I probably think it cost. So, time-wise, 7:19. Only about 10 minutes so far, so we'll finish up.
You can do whatever.
What I thought I would share with you on my side before Amy gets to talking, well, she will be talking about his Pro Tools as a feature at Ancestry. I thought it would be helpful for me to share with you, if you haven't done this in a while, what it looks like to go into a tree and start to add records to that tree. And I had a person that I had intended to investigate here. Let me see if I can get it from off of Ann Jeffrey here. But the hints will come up here as the records themselves. Once you get to the profile, you'll see hints. How many of you have used the hints option in Ancestry? Okay, so you kind of know how to do this, right? But it's so nice to go through it and see what you want to add to the person's profile as records. So from Ann's perspective, this just gives me another record that she was a part of that census there. And her mother here is Betty and her father James, and this is her actual birth. So let's review that one together real quick. And you always want to double check your work. So what do I do every time I go in to do family history? For those of you who know me well, I always start with another map system. You always have to have your map systems open every time you go to do genealogy research, right? Because you never want to get this wrong. Anne lived in 1824. Back then in England, they didn't move very far usually, right? So if a record shows up and it tells me that she moved 50 miles south, there's a good chance that's a different Anne Jeffrey. That's someone else that's not related to me. So I have to really be careful. So I like to go back to Google Maps and see the cities that it's referring to. But in this case, I knew she was in Calvary the entire time. And I went to Calvary this last year to see that area. It's beautiful. But this is a record. It looks like it would really fit. Everything seems to fit with her being her. So birth, what's that? Oh, okay, gotcha. That's true. This is gonna need to be able to be adjusted here just for a minute. We'll just bring it up a little bit. Oop, maybe not. Yeah, it's not wanting to play very well. No, I'm glad you mentioned it because that's a little bit of a thing you'll have to keep in mind as well. But here is where you would say, yes, that seems to be a good fit. There's a couple of things I see as a discrepancy, maybe has to do with the birth. As I come down here, I can see this is 1826 for a birth. Which one's right? I'd have to do some more research on that. So here's an exact birth on my side, this is a general year. I don't think I'll trust just the year if I have an exact date on my side. But there's the date of baptism coming in again, the 28th of November versus what was here. So I verified this one with another image. So I'd have to go into the image to look at it. But there's the father, there's the mother. Those are both correct. So I will just save that to the tree like that. So now it saved it to the tree under the baptism record that it shows it under. And so here is one, and then there's the other one right here. So anytime you can get a hold of the image and view the image, try to do that because that'll tell you a little bit more detail. Maybe they transcribed it wrong, or it's always best to turn to the image when you can. So that's how I add records. And I add, honestly, I'm probably adding, if somebody gives me 2 hours to add put a family tree together, I can, with Ancestry, probably put in 30 names pretty quickly because the records are coming up from England and the US and countries like that pretty quickly, right? If it's in Mongolia, that might be different, but in this case, there's a lot to be served up, so you can just verify records quickly and add that what you need to. So on my trip to England, I decided that what I would do is go out and take photos of all the gravestones of the related members of my family. That's all I had to go off of, is that gravestone. It's a Robinson, perfect. I don't know how they're related to me, but somehow in this churchyard, we're related. So then I brought home about 150 pictures of gravestones that were family members related to me. And I started with the name, and I looked it up on Ancestry, and instantly I started to figure out how we were related. And then I built their tree so I could link them into my tree. And that was a fun exercise. I built about 100 trees, but it went fast because I had a lot of information coming out of Ancestry to show me how I'm related to these people. Well, that allowed me to do a lot of good things with that. So it was a lot of fun. I still have people reaching out to me. How are you related to us? And I didn't know we had a relation. So just see if I'm kind of going off of my memory as to what else. Oh, there's one more thing I wanted to share with you here. Lastly, let's see what I had on my presentation. I wanted just to give you an update on what it is we've done. How are we doing time-wise? Amy, what do we have?
Not a big deal at all. You're good.
5 minutes. Okay.
There's a clock on the back wall.
5 minutes, perfect. So I wanted to tell you what we've done that are rather large in nature over the last 6 months, or the last time since we met. Janae Annette, we published and we actually purchased and acquired this company. Janae Annette is a company that came out of France, and a lot of French records are in it, although it's an enormous database. So it now has been updated to contain 1.7 billion records. So that's a very large set of trees that come out of that. It is just tree data. Okay. So you'll find some of your families in that, or you'll find others that may be connected to Janae Annette. The last update we did was in May of 2004. Like in the US, that we added all these newspaper events, stories and events into the US. This year, we decided let's do the same thing for England and Australia and Canada. Let's just take all the same stories out of all those countries' newspapers. And when we did that, In England alone, we came up with 1.7 billion records that we added on this, and I apologize because some of the dates are missing because of how this adjusted when I put it up here. But that was just added this year. And then US Find a Grave, we've added records here of, there's 179 million total records, but it's 5.3 million records that we added to Find a Grave that we own, as Find a Grave is our company as well. So that's a lot of records being updated, even just on an annual basis. The obituary index, we went back and did some work on that this year. And to see if I can pull it up, it looks like it's not wanting to help me out, but it's about 1.1 billion records. And we can't quite read it there because because of the way that this is presenting that information. But there's a lot of new records that were added to do the obituary index. I decided this to add the 1931 census from Canada because some of you may have known or may not have known that we added that the last year. And that's 10 million records for their census that they have every 10 years. So.
With newspapers.com, I have a subscription
Yes.
to that. Because you can't really pull it up.
That's right. To view the images in newspapers.com, you would need to have a subscription to do so.
Yeah. But it is awesome, and I do like Ancestry, at least finds it,
Yes.
so then I can.
We decided it's good that we at least include the index of all of those newspaper records in the card catalog in Ancestry, so you can at least find information
You know
that's
it
pertinent
exists,
to,
you can go
it's
to it.
yours family line, and then you can view the image outcome.
And I think here at Family Search, you can view the image.
I believe so. I believe they have that connected here, right?
Yeah.
So, and the same thing with the birth index, we decided to do the same thing with those, so. So the births you can find in through the same thing, the catalog has it, the images are viewed on the card catalog. And then finally, I thought this was a fun one to get this year. I went out to the California State Archives. And they said, I don't know if you'd be interested in it, but we have all of the car registrations of those who owned a car previous to 1922. And I said, yeah, I want to know who drove what car, what they drove, who owned a car in California between 1905 and 1922. And it is the coolest little collection. So if you had someone living in California and they may have owned a car, this may tell you, as long as it's not beyond 1922. And then lastly, Wyoming, I got excited we could finally publish their updates, which was brand new records coming from the county, state and county birth records. That's a small state, but all states count. Every state counts. When I put up Montana and these smaller counties, I'm like, I'm so excited for the people who've been waiting forever to get their state records online. Wyoming, we just finally put up all the state births and deaths and marriages. It took forever to get that done. Now it's there. And same with Montana and same with Oregon. We just published all of Oregon's records, and the Washington State Archives has now allowed us to get all of their images. So those are also up and more are coming. Utah, keeping up with them, but they're finally getting them done. So we're getting those done from Utah State Archives. So we're seeing more and more come from these states that should have not been there previously. Finally, this one was just fun. California U.S. Historical Students Database. Someone out of Harvard, brilliant idea. They decided, why can't we just at least tell everybody from 1893 to 1946 who attended the top 9 institutions in the state of California? UCLA, USC, UC Berkeley, all of the 9 big ones. And so they compiled a list of what they studied, when they studied, and who they are in one database. And we published it this year as well. And that's just a fun one to see if you know of an ancestor that went to school in California at that time. So that's a little bit of what I wanted to update you with about Ancestry. And then I'm going to now, Amy, take over the rest of the presentation.
Thank you. Okay, don't be afraid of my presentation. I'm not here to scare you, okay? I am going to stop this for just a second so I can share what I have. Let's find it. Oh, it's over here.
Craig, I'm gonna unplug your presentation.
Yep. Yep.
Go right ahead.
Okay, so I'm gonna walk you through, there is a specific tool that Ancestry has that I'm gonna show you how to use Pro Tools. Anybody familiar with what that is? Yes? Okay, let me try just a second. I gotta close this. And this one. There we go. Okay. And everybody online, thank you for being patient. I promise you it will be worth it. Let's go here. Okay. Okay, can you see this presentation online as well? Maybe, they might not be there. That's okay. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Pro Tools, and some of you are familiar with it, but I'm going to show you really how to make that tool blossom, really help you solidify your research and, you know, find out who you're looking at. And we're going to go here. Okay, so with Ancestry Pro Tools membership, you get access to exclusive tools that improve accuracy and reveal deeper insights to continuously enrich your discoveries. So long story short, what did I just say? It makes it a lot better and it's a lot more efficient. And guess what? You can't argue with it. You can't say, oh, I'm right. Well, sorry, the primary source says this. Okay, that's what we're trying to help eliminate. So in Pro Tools, you have 7 things that you can do. And we're going to go over those really briefly. You're going to feel like you're drinking from a fire hydrant for just a minute, and then I'll show you and it'll be fine. Nobody's going to drown, okay? Okay, so we're going to go over tree checker first, and then we'll go on through enhanced, shared. We'll just go down them all, except for I did not go over fan chart settings. I think you guys know how to do a fan chart. It's just a big family or big pedigree chart. Okay, so in tree checker, what do you think? What would I want to check my tree? Why would that be important?
It's logical.
Yes. Yes. Duplicates. Duplicates are possible. Yes, that's a good thing. How many duplicates do we have running around in the family server? More than we want to count. Okay. Okay. So we're going to go in and we're going to also find potential errors. Okay. That could be misspellings of names. If it was translated incorrectly. If it, you know, there's all sorts of things. Sometimes, depending on what time period you're in, an A can look like an S. Different letters look like different things. So depending on what goes on, and you can also, they also wrote things out phonetically for different time periods. So your relative name could be completely spelled wrong, but because it was written phonetically. Okay, but these are things you're going to be able to discover with Pro Tools instead of it lets you know. I promise you, it's so much simpler. So, and then you're going to, we talked about duplicates and improve your family tree. Okay. So this is on my tree on Ancestry. You're going to go up here to that little exclamation point that's circled in red. That will bring up a window like this. Okay. Does she have any problems? Does Pro Tools say she's got problems? What's going on? She's got duplicates. What else does she have going on? There's one more, it's pretty obvious. The only sources attached to her are an online tree. Okay, there's no vital records attached to her at all. So just because it says she was born and died in these places, I have nothing to prove it. Okay, so this is where Pro Tools is letting me know, hey, guess what? You might want to check this out. Okay. So that is one cool thing that it will help you with. You can also use these arrows on the side that are right here. If you don't want this window open while you're fixing it, you can close it. Okay, but if you're going to try it, and once you fix the error, it will disappear in Pro Tools. It won't be there anymore. Okay, So that's kind of fun how that works. Okay. Now within Tree Checker, these are accurate data. I got this from the lady who helped create the tool. So this is accurate. Okay. Pro Tools will do birth checks and it'll check age, location, name, and parents' age just for a birth. And that's pretty awesome. And it'll do the same thing for a marriage. It'll check age, spouse, and marriage event errors. Okay, sometimes with the marriage record, you might have a parent on there, but that's not with all marriage records. Okay, sometimes it has it on there, sometimes it doesn't. So that's why it's not really, it's kind of put in the event other section. Okay, then you're going to do the same thing for death. You're going to check potential age, location, and parent errors. We're looking for problems. I want to know the mistakes, and this tool helps you figure it out. The other checks are, we want to know how many sources you have. Hence why the tree we saw that it only had pedigree charts or family trees on it. There's nothing else there. Okay. And then it's also going to look up surname errors. How many times has your relative's name been spelled wrong? Depending on where you lived, a lot. Okay. And depending on what country you lived in, if it was translated correctly or transcribed correctly, or there's a whole list of things that can happen. Have I scared you yet? Are you okay? Everybody's good? Okay. We're fine, I promise. Okay. Then you're going to go in and it's going to show you how your shared matches. This is DNA stuff we're talking about, okay? This is going to show you your shared matches. And it's going to have the two. I'm not going to show you a real screen because it has too much privacy data. I can't do that. But it will show you the two people, and then there's 3 columns, and there are columns that shared matches. You click on that within your Pro Tools and it'll show you all of them. All of the ones that you share DNA with, it will show you. And that also helps you be able to find living relatives and reach out to them and maybe get some connections that way too. So that's kind of fun. It's not just documents that we're playing with in Pro Tools. We do a lot of stuff, okay? Was that too scary?
By the way, that's one feature many told us
Mhm.
in Ancestry that they absolutely are thrilled.
Yes.
They can click on any one part of their shared matches and they can look up who actually is sharing that match.
Well, I'll tell you a personal story really fast with this. In January, my father passed away. That's okay, it's fine. But I was like, my family's getting so much smaller. Because my dad was an only child and most all of his relatives had passed away, or there's only just a couple cousins hanging out. Somebody on Ancestry messaged me, said, hey, we're related. Introduced me to a whole new branch of people that I know I'm related to, but didn't know that they were right here locally. And some of them were in Montana and some of them, wherever. Once a year, we have a family reunion and this is the place. We all just go there and we just play. Under a big old pavilion and we do family history for however long we need to do it. Okay, so you never know how much your DNA can really help you with your family history research. Because you know what? DNA is never wrong. It is never wrong. Okay? All right. Now, so when I say smart filters, does that make sense to you? On a tree with a Pro Tool? Yeah, did you have a question?
I do.
What's up?
Okay, Pro Tools, you said you have to belong to it. Do I have to have a separate?
There is okay, so you have your Ancestry membership, okay? There is an additional cost to get access to Pro Tools.
Okay, that's what
It's not very much, but there's an additional cost, okay? But it will give you access to these tools. Okay, and when I'm talking about filters, this is where this is gonna get nitty gritty. This is gonna get a little bit big, but it's fine. You can sort by family line. You can sort by event. You can sort by any errors. You can sort by location. You can also sort by time period, DNA, and more. So to go into your tree and let's say my dad's from Arizona. If I put in Hayden Lane, Tempe, Arizona, that's what I want to know because that's the street they all grew up on. But it will filter down and tell you what is available within that area. Okay, that's really, really helpful. Okay, does that make sense? Everybody's okay? All right. This is showing you a filter This is all people, but this is what your screen is gonna look like, and you can kind of pick what you want to filter to. Where it says Pro, those are the filters you have within Pro Tools. The other ones are just already there. Okay? I just want to give you a visual so you know what it looks like when you get in. Okay, how many times do we deal with charts and reports in family history? All the time, okay? They have a feature here with Pro Tools that you can create descendancy, you can do direct ancestors reports. They're all really simplified, they're really easy, straightforward. You click on who you want, you click the report, and voila, you can print it. Okay? So just please make sure your data is accurate, please, for everybody else's sanity. Okay, this is my nerdy genealogy thing, but this is a filter within the tables and the charts. And it shows, this is for Elias Gardner. He used to live here in Payson, Utah. But it shows this specific record, I will butcher that name if I try to say it, but it's an ancestors table. And it is detailed list of one person's ancestors. So this is just Elias Gardner's ancestors. This is the first generation, then it goes second, then it goes third, and then it goes fourth. And it gives you all the details for each of those ancestors if you have it on your tree. Does that make sense? That's just an example of one filter within that Pro tool. Okay. This is where it gets really fun. Have you ever done tree mapping? Okay, this is kind of nerdy and kind of geeky, but this is good. This is my tree, all the places that are colored. This is going to tell you how many people are within these locations. I have a little group. You can't see it over here because the filter's covering it up. But I have people in England and Europe too. Okay. But in here, you can go in and you can put in a person, you can put in a date, you can put in a location, you can build a map specifically for your ancestor. And you can show where they've been, what they've been doing. Okay. That's kind of a fun one to be able to do. You can add all sorts of things. You can add DNA stuff. You can add, there's all sorts of things you can put in here. Okay.
I thought it real quick on
Go
this, on the part where it says my tags. DNA tags or my tree tags.
Yeah.
I once went in and just wanted to ask, okay, my direct line ancestors, when did they die? They're 70s, 80s, 90s. They live beyond 100. And I put their decades in so I could easily, by my tags, know instantly all of those who died in their 80s, all those who died in their 90s. I kind of get a sense of how long I might live. But this gives you an idea of something you can do. We're doing all of them wear beards. How many have beards? And so you can label all
You
the
can do
beards,
that.
that are in your family. And you just get to decide what you want to do. You can customize those my tags.
Okay, well, I'm going to show you in a few minutes. I have another slide. It's going to make you laugh because I don't think this person lived to be 170. I don't think so, but I think there's an inaccuracy I have to figure out. Okay. So then we have the last tab is tree insights, where you can discover familiar trends and commonalities in your tree. That's big words, but basically it's helping you figure out what you share in common with your ancestors, what you share in common, what specific traits do you guys both share? Okay, I have green eyes. My mom has green eyes. But the funny thing is my dad has blue eyes, and depending on my mood, my eyes will change colors between green and blue. I have both my parents' eyes. That's just what happened, okay? But I go down through my family, I have other relatives that their eyes do the same thing. They change colors depending on their mood. Okay, if I cry, my eyes look like emeralds. I wish it would stay that way all the time, but I don't want to cry all the time. Okay? So this is some of the cool things that you can do. DNA also can help tap into some of this, okay? Because that's where you're going to get traits and different things sometimes, okay? This is where it gets fun, okay? This is where, so the Gardner name, this is from under this one filter, okay? This shows you the top 5 most common surnames in my tree. There's one, here's Gardner, here's Burnett, Dalton, Bloxham, and Evans. Well, the Gardner line's doing pretty good. Gardner went, he had 10 wives, okay? He had plenty of kids and that's fine. Okay, but it also shows you a little bit about where the Gardner name came from. Okay, what countries it came from. And it also gives you a source right here of where they got their data. So they're not just making this up, which is kind of cool. Okay. Then the next one, this is still tree insights. Please don't be scared, but I can't scroll down when I'm making a PowerPoint slide, so I'm going one slide at a time. This one is also, you can oldest people. She was 170. I don't think so. I'm gonna have to check those dates. Okay, but 122, 121, 117. And then I'm just like, okay. But you can again check and see oldest people in your family tree, or if they had beards, or if you can do all of that, okay? That's something fun. You can kind of check in and see what's going on. Then, who had the most kids? I have one lady had 23 children in her family. These are all the kids. But then it goes down and breaks it down. So it kind of shows you the size of the families, okay? And a lot of times in historical records, you need to make sure you double check the kids because sometimes they could have had a baby and it died little. You want to make sure you include all those little kiddos, okay? Okay. Then this is for people who were married and at what age they were married. Okay, I think this is wrong because I went in and fixed it, but Pro Tools didn't fix it yet. It hasn't updated, but that's fine. She did not get married when she was 7. Okay, she got married when she was 21, which is fine. But it can show you over here at what age they got married. Alexander Burnett was in Scotland, and I think it was the 1800s, and that was pretty common for that time period to get married when you were 14. Okay, because their lifespan was a lot shorter. Okay, so I'm going to show you one thing really quick, and then we're going to jump in. I'm going to show you how it works on your tree. This is where you're going to see what you would see when you get into your tree. Okay. This, where'd my mouse go? Here it is. Okay, this is on Ancestry. This exists. Anyone can pull this up. This will give you all of the details of what is included in an Ancestry Pro Tools membership. You can look this up on Ancestry. It is available for everyone to see. Okay, so this is something you can go look up on your own time. But it also has another section down here. It has a lot of places where people have asked questions about their membership and things like that and what they can do. Sometimes you need to look into these questions, sometimes you don't. Okay, it just depends on what's going on. Let me go back to this. Okay, you guys ready to get your hands dirty? I'm excited. This will be fun. Okay. I'm going to shrink this tree a little bit. Can you all still see that okay? Can you read it okay? So where is...
Oh, you were locked down. You have to log back.
Oh, that's right. Craig,
Sorry.
you don't need to look at the Dalton tree on your line, okay? It's okay. I'm like, wait a minute. I forgot, so thank you. Okay. Oh, I typed it wrong. No, try it.
You have your phone.
Over here. We have a lot of security
Yeah, and you have to go through security.
within our system, and it's important.
Yes.
So, because we at Ancestry value your privacy and your security, so it's a good thing. Okay. Who's familiar with the Dalton gang? Anybody know what that is? Anybody? Or do we not know? Raise your hand if you don't know who the Dalton gang is. They are bank robbers and train robbers. Okay. They are very famous. Okay. Yes, they are. Unfortunately, it's true. Okay. So if this is your tree, okay, where are we going to go? We're going to go right here to this exclamation point, right? We're gonna click on it. It's gonna show you my rating of my tree. Is that important? What does that mean? Does that mean I've done my homework? What if my tree was a 0.0? I better really do some work then. I got something wrong. This is a good thing to double check on, okay? Just to see where you're standing within the system to see how your tree is. It shows your accuracy. Okay, it's a good thing. Do I have any duplicates in my tree? None, 0. This is awesome, okay? No documentation, what's that gonna be? Sources. No sources, so it's just like a family tree, okay? And then only tree documentation, same thing, it's just a tree. Other possible errors. This only has like 5 generations on it, there's not many errors, so. But when you scroll down, you're gonna be able to see Anne Eilette right here. She was born in 1738. But if I go over to that exclamation point, it's gonna show me Pro Tools is going to show me that what's wrong with her. She only has online trees. So what am I gonna wanna do once I get here? Find my sources. Where am I gonna go? Oh, right here? Maybe I should look here, see if there's anything on here. Okay, I'm gonna close this because I don't need it right now. Wait, is this a picture of her? Possibly. We're gonna find out if it's true. Okay, but then through your hints, you can go through and see. I want a legit one. Okay, we're gonna try. We're gonna try this one. I don't think. Okay, so this is for, there's a reason I'm doing this. She was married in about 1758. Do I trust this record? Did I hear a yes or no? Maybe. Maybe. As a genealogist, I'm not comfortable with abouts. I would rather have an exact date because abouts cause a lot of confusion in the world, but sometimes that's all you have. But if I go here on this other one, I like this record a lot better because it gives me an exact date and what page it's on within the document. So if I were to contact these people, if we didn't have the record, I can contact that archive and say, hey, I need page 314. And you know, they're so happy when you know what page it's on. Okay, but do you see how Pro Tools can really help you? It just helps you hone in really fast on figuring out what you're doing. And I can't hit accept because everything's covering it up. Does that help a little bit? Do you have any questions, comments, concerns, jokes? I don't care. Does it make sense what we talked about? Okay, so anytime you can go back here. Oh, it's being silly. Let's go back here. You're going to have to close. The only thing that it does is you have to close out of the person you went to go view that was here to go back to your list. They're going to open them up in a separate window so you don't lose your list. Because sometimes it's hard to get back to your list. Okay, so that's the one thing that it will do. Okay, does anybody think this would be really helpful to help them figure things out? Simplify and keep your trees as accurate as possible, because the more accurate your data is, the less people can dispute it and argue with you and mess up your global tree and change things, and you want to get it as accurate as possible. Okay? Yes, go ahead.
This is more general ancestry and not.
That's fine.
But so is it true that anybody can go in and change things on Family Search, but they can't on your tree on Ancestry?
Your tree of ancestry is yours. No one can touch it.